Hello and welcome back to DCD Transporters. Today I just wanted to do a quick how-to video, and that is going to be on fitting our quick release swivel for the double seat. Now, works with T5s to T6.1s, so from the very early vans 2003 right the way up to 2024 6.1s, and they're so simple to fit. We do offer fit in here if you want, but they are easy enough for you to take on at home, and you just need a few simple tools to get the seat out, get the base put in, and then the seat back on top of that. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. So our donor van for today is a T6.1. So it's a van that's in with us for a conversion. So we thought it'd be a really great time to show you how we're going to swap the seat out, put the swivel in, and then put the seat back again. So worth noting, if you are converting a van and it is a panel van and it's got a bulkhead, you will need to remove that bulkhead trim before you can put the swivel in. And of course that piece that's left behind will need cutting out. If you're not confident to do that, then I'd suggest you go and get somebody like a converter that's local to you, or if you are local to us, then obviously we'll do that at the same time as fit the swivel for you if you wish. But it is a simple process, and perhaps we'll have another video later on how to do that. But for today, we're just going to concentrate on fitting this quick release swivel into the van. So we'll get the camera spun round and I'll show you how we're going to start. So this is typically what you're going to find. So you got your double seat, lift the front, push it back down, and here we go. So there's a couple of cover trims in here that we're going to have to remove. This one and the one opposite. And you'll note that there is some electric sitting in here. There's another fuse and some spaces where you could find, depending upon your model of van, these have connectors in them and potentially another couple of bits with fuses in, but I'm going to show you how we remove those. The first one is pretty simple. So we're going to pull the trim off here, and that's going to expose some connectors. Let's get the other side. So again, let's pop that round there. So now you can see the connectors. Now the connectors are pretty simple. The first step is going to be separating the connectors. So, and you want to do this with the ignition off and preferably the battery disconnected. But if at any time you do switch the ignition on with these unconnected, the chances are you're going to have faults appear on your dashboard that you cannot clear off, and you will then need somebody with the Volkswagen computer to erase those faults. So be careful, don't turn the ignition on when you start unplugging these. So remove these. So on this particular van we've got 4, and they're very simple to come off. So that's the first phase of the connectors off. Now the second phase is going to be removing these blocks from their frame. So this is the view from the other side, and there's a little tab that you can pull. You can see the connector has now come out of the plastic frame, which is in the seat. So we're going to remove all 4 of those. There's that one. And now that one. So if you look closely on here, you can see the little tab that I'm pushing down, and that removes it from this plastic frame that's on the seat. So the next one to remove is this one. So you'll see it's got slightly different, it's got a little tab here. Push that tab in, and now that removes from there. So that's got a little fuse in it, so we need to keep that one safe. And now everything on the seat is disconnected. So the next thing up, as you can see, the seat is attached to the floor of the van with these nuts here. They are a 16mm nut, so you need a 16mm socket or 16mm spanner to remove those. There is 8 in total, so we're going to whiz those off now, and then we should be able to move the seat out of the way. So like I said, just going to whiz these out off the seat. Obviously that is a fair bit quicker using the impact gun on that to remove those 8 nuts. If you don't have an impact gun, I wouldn't worry about it. It just means you're going to have to use a spanner or a ratchet, and it'll just take a little bit longer. But again, it's not a long-winded process. So all 8 need to come out. Like I said, they're a 16mm and they should be fairly accessible for you to get those. Once they're removed, keep them and put them to one side. You need to keep those nuts safe, and now we can lift the seat out. Okay, so we've got the seat out now, so we just need to join the connector blocks back together, and then we're going to hide those out of the way, nice and neat, under the floor. It's quite easy because luckily they're all color coded. Sometimes there are a couple of connector blocks that are the same color, but you can't force them to go into ones that they don't belong. So they are a very specific shape on the inside, so that the two will only go together when they are a mated pair. So that is really easy, you can't get that wrong. So if there are a couple of colors that are the same, normally we find there's probably anything up to about 6 or 7 of these connector blocks underneath the seat, depending upon the spec of your van and what your van's got in it accessory wise. Then obviously you'll have more of these if it's got more options, and sometimes, like I said, you'll get the one like this as well. It's got a fuse, and that's a power takeoff if you ever needed to use it. That has got a live feed from the master battery, so you can then add extra fuses into there if you put the corresponding tab on the other side, and then you can have that as a power takeoff from the van battery. But if we move this little piece of rubber on the floor here nicely shaped so we can get inside and put all of these things in here, you'll notice there's a bit of a well underneath the floor. So what we're going to do is now arrange these underneath in a nice neat way, tape them down so they're nice and flat, and that way when we put the swivel base on the top, then there's very little protruding out from the top of the surface. The swivel base has got a cutout in it, so it is or it has got an extra bit of space underneath there. So don't worry if you have got a lot of these connectors and you can't get them as neat as you'd like, and there is a bit of a mound, then don't worry, it won't interfere with the seat at all. But let's try and make these as neat as we can. So just having a look at that, I've used a bit of duct tape just to keep that nice and neat underneath there, and that's a relatively flat piece now. Like I said, we've got a little bit of a scoop in the base of the double swivel, so that's not going to cause us any problems. Bit of duct tape, like I said, and spend a bit of time just making those wires nice and flat and as neat as you can, so they're all nice and neat in there, nothing's getting squashed or crimped. So yeah, and then cover over the top. Let's go and have a look at the base. So here we go, this is the double swivel base. That's exactly as it will come. So it's locked into position in the forward position as it sits, and what we'll need to do is remove the nuts from this. These are a 17mm nut, so you will need a 17mm spanner or a 17mm socket and ratchet to get these off, and then also to tighten them back up once we've put the seat back on. Now at the moment as well, we're doing our cover plates. So this is a cover plate that's designed to go over the swivel base. Now, as you'll appreciate, the swivel base moves around, so we can't have any wiring going through it, and we also have this part of the mechanism, which if you do store small items in the seat or underneath the seat in this storage area, then of course, you know, there is the risk that small items will get into there. By having our cover plate, that's going to reduce that greatly. So the cover plate goes on the top here and then gives you a nice solid base so you can store stuff in the seat. So here we go, just removed the 8 nuts from that, and the cover plate now sits over the top. What we recommend is that you carpet line this like you carpet line your interior of your van. You can use the same stuff, just obviously cut the holes in it to allow the studs to go through, and then once you've fitted the swivel into the van, you can then pop this cover panel on the top and then the seat on the top of that. The cover panel is very thin, it's still pretty strong, made out of metal, and it will support items put in there and stop small items from getting caught in that mechanism. So you carpet line that, that's going to be really neat and give you a lovely storage area back underneath the seat that you can store whatever you now want without having to have it in boxes and crates. So our little cover panel is now available with every swivel that we sell. We are including them with it for the short term, and then going forwards we'll be offering those for sale, and they will fit most swivels. It's got the little cutout for it, so you can get one of these from us if you wish. So with the wires tidied away and the studs exposed, we're now going to get the swivel and put the swivel on top of these studs with the hole orientated towards the front. So let's go and grab that and we'll pop that into position. So the swivel base is now in the van. So the next thing to do is release the handles so we can now get access to those 8 bolts that are underneath the swivel to attach it to the van itself. So you've got 8 studs that need to put the original 8 nuts that you've removed from the seat. Now they need to go back in here. So by rotating the seat base around and using the hole, you will now see you can gain access to all 8 of these. So yeah, rotate the seat around to get access, put all of those back in. Then we can move to put the cover plate on and then the seat on top of the cover plate. So we've located all 8 nuts, and that's the original VW nuts on the underside of the swivel. Secured that all into place and made sure they're nice and tight. Now we've put the cover panel back on. Now just again make note of the orientation of the seat swivel. Has got an indent here, a little cutout, and that must face the front of the van. So now we've locked the handles back down, so we've aligned the swivel base. To align the swivel base, you just want to line up the 2 edges. Once they're aligned, it will allow you then to put the handles back down, nice and easy. Obviously that's going to make a bit of noise, like I said, we'd recommend you carpet those, but once the seat's on, that'll hold that into position anyway. So that's now secured into the van, handles down. Let's put the seat back on top. So the seat's back into position, and as you can see, cover plate's doing its job. So there's now a lovely flat surface there. Do make sure when you are fitting these that you can see all the studs through the seat base. So each one needs to be exposed so you can get the new 17mm nuts on there and nice and secure and tight. So each one of those, as you can see, is showing nicely through from the seat base into the seat. So let's put those back in, and that's the seat fitted. So let's get that seat secured and get those 17mm nuts nice and tight on the top of that seat base to the seat. So let's go. So that's it, complete. So you are now fitted and safe and secure. You can, now that we've moved the sockets or the little connectors out of the way, you can take this off. So this piece of plastic can now be removed, so you can get a bit more storage in there. Same with this one on the top here. If you want to remove that, you can do, because obviously there's no connectors. That's going to be sitting in there now, so it's kind of redundant. And like I said, with our new cover panel, that now makes that a completely flat, lovely area for loads of good storage. So let me show you the seat in operation. So the first thing we want to do to make the seat rotate is obviously release it from the base. So it's got 2 lovely handles that are very nice and easy to grab. So the first one, pull that up then towards you. Second one here, again, so that's the handles released. So we've released the two handles. Now we want to spin the seat around. The easiest way to do this is with the passenger door open and the handbrake off. So we do understand that sometimes when you park up, you are going to be on a bit of a slope. So obviously do take care if you do need the handbrake on to keep the van in position. If you've got a helper that could sit on the brakes while you move the seat round, that would be advantageous. But otherwise, for every other occasion, we would prefer if the handbrake was off, and that gives us the maximum amount of space. What we've got to remember here is that we're trying to turn something around in the space it was designed to fit in, and they haven't given us much tolerance to do that. So if we can make it easier, then let's make it easier. So handbrake off, passenger door open. So let's do that. So handbrake is go off, handles are released, passenger door is open. We're going to push the seat away and into the corner of the dashboard to the left. So if we go away to the corner and around, push into the corner again, around, and then and that's it now turned round. So that's now in camping mode. You can now sit on that seat, that's fine. It's designed in a way that it doesn't lock into this position. There's a very good reason for that, and that's because we don't want to encourage you to drive it with it spun round, which is not the done thing. So do not drive with the seat facing backwards. So that's why it doesn't lock into position. So there's no reason why you need to lock it into position facing this way. So that is now ready for you to use as a camper van. And when you're ready to turn it back again, follow the same principle as what you did. So push the seat away and into that corner, back round. And then when we get to this point, this is when we now want to line the seat base up. So you want to make sure the two sides or the two pieces are neatly lined up with each other. So those two shapes need to mimic each other and be exactly the same there. So let's get that nicely lined up. Handle down, go around the front. And as you heard, that's now locked into position. It really is that easy and that fast. They are, without doubt, the best seat swivels on the market. Let's do it again. You can time me. So handle up, front handle up. Push the seat away and into the corner. Keep going, into the corner. That's it, round. Put the seat back, push it away, into the corner, round again, bring it back down, line it up, handle down, handle down, job done. So let's do it again. Handle up, front handle up, push the seat away, slides round lovely, into position. Now you can put the handbrake on if you wish, get it to spin round again, handbrake off, open the door, push the seat away, around we go. Now line the two shapes up. Once you're happy that they're almost in the right sort of position, almost right there, now do the front. You heard that one lock in. That's so quick. It's so quick and so easy. They are amazing. If you're keeping your double seat and you don't want a single seat, this is by far the easiest seat swivel you're going to get. I think they're cracking. So that really is as easy as that. To be honest, you should be able to fit one of these in less than half an hour. They are really that simple. As long as you've got a 17mm spanner or ratchet and you've got a 16mm spanner and ratchet, you don't need anything else to complete this job. A bit of duct tape if you want to lay those wires nice and neat. So super simple, half an hour's worth of work at the very most, and that's it, job done. So the same principle applies for other seat swivels as well, except they're just not as good as what this one is. So there we go. But thank you very much for watching. I do hope that was helpful. Please give us a thumbs up if it was. Do subscribe and hit that bell button so you get notifications of all the other videos that are coming out as well. So thanks very much. Do take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Sub 30 seconds to turn it around and lock it back into place. That's worth a subscribe on its own, isn't it?